That night, the rain poured relentlessly. The wet streets reflected the flashing red and blue lights of the ambulance. The sirens echoed through the hospital's silence. The ER doors burst open. Several nurses and doctors rushed toward the stretcher. A pale man, his eyes half open, lay motionless on the gurney. The patient faints from extreme weakness. The wheels of the stretcher glided over the tiled floor, and the heavy silence of the hospital was only broken by the hurried footsteps of the staff. EdwardMarlow lay unconscious on the emergency bed. The nurses carefully monitored his vital signs, but something was off. The doctor stared at the screen. The ECG showed irregular patterns and his blood pressure was abnormal. Suddenly, Nurse Anna noticed a faint movement in the patient's hand. Was he waking up? Or was something deeper happening? In the cold silence of the emergency room, Dr. Brenner flips through the patient's file. But the information is strange and incomplete. There are no prior medical records. Nurse Anna, concerned, watches the vital monitors. The irregular heartbeat is clearly visible. Dr. Brenner takes a deep breath, pauses for a moment, and gently checks the patient's pulse. But something about the situation feels off. In the heavy silence of the room, only the faint beeping of medical devices can be heard. Dr. Brenner stands still, his gaze fixed on the patient. Beside him, Nurse Anna watches with concern in her eyes. Suddenly, Edward's previously motionless hand twitches slightly. His eyelids have an almost imperceptible tremor. But there is something even stranger. His body remains unnaturally still, almost as if something beyond human resides within him. On the surface, everything seems normal, but something inside Edward is wrong. Anna casts a worried glance at the patient. Suddenly, Edward's pale skin shifts slightly. An almost imperceptible change, but real. It's as if something is moving beneath his skin. Dr. Brenner locks his gaze onto Edward's face. As if his body hasn't realized he's awake yet. Why is this man who just regained consciousness so unnaturally calm? Dr. Brenner stared at the computer screen. He searched all hospital databases, but there was nothing. The name EdwardMarlow was nowhere to be found. Dr. Brenner murmuring, "This is impossible. How can there be no record of him?" Dr. Brenner stared at the monitor, as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Nurse Anna worried about what's coming. Edward buried his face in his hands, taking a deep breath. The doctor and nurse watched him anxiously. Edward, his hands trembling, points at the monitor. His fear-filled eyes shift between the doctor and the nurse. Nurse Anna holds her breath. Now, only a heavy silence lingers between them, and perhaps a truth none of them are ready to face. Dr. Brenner stares at the screen. The patient's records should be here, but there's nothing. Why? Elsewhere, Edward, his anxious face reflected in the mirror. Does he even recognize himself? Or Nurse Anna, whispering something to Dr. Brenner. Could this be a clue? But it's just an information gap. The patient doesn't exist. Now, in the hospital room, a doctor, a nurse, and a man whose past is lost in darkness. They must uncover the truth. Edward stares at his reflection in the mirror. A face he knows, yet somehow it feels unfamiliar. Anna gazes at the screen, the blue light illuminating her face. But what she sees is unbelievable. Unusual differences are evident in Edward's DNA. A genetic structure completely different from any human ever recorded. Edward asked in a confused manner, "So that means, who am I?" Nurse Anna sat beside Edward. She looked into the patient's weary eyes and softly said, "You are still who you were. We're here to help you." But what if I never existed?
Don't forget to like and subscribe.